crafters, welcome back to my channel, Margaret Knapp Designs. So in a previous video I made this cardstock folio cover, so that's what we're going to be working on today. And we're going to work through some of the smaller pieces and putting some things together. I've got some things cut out, and I might be kind of going back and forth and getting things cut out as we go along. But thank you for joining me for this tutorial. And if you like what you see in this tutorial, please like and subscribe down below. Otherwise, let's get into making this folio. And I will leave a link down in the box below that will give you the directions for making this cardstock folio. And let's go. I'll give you all the designs as we go. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to start off by picking out my base cardstock for the middle of the folio. So I'm going to work from the middle of the folio, and then I'm going to go from, here and here, and then I may even do these, next. I'm not sure, but I know for sure I'm going to do the middle, and then we'll work on the two outside covers. So starting out, I'm going to be making a flap that's going to go over this. In the other books that we did before, this flap came this way. This time I'm going to do the flap up, and underneath it we are going to do a waterfall going down in the middle of this section. So what I ended up doing was cutting a piece of the black cardstock, and this is, I believe it's 9.5. Let me just check it again. Yes, it is 9.5. And then I scored 1/2 of an inch, and then another 1/8 of an inch in here. No, I'm sorry, 1/4 of an inch. I apologize. So 1/2 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and then that is, this whole section is 3/4 of an inch. So what that does is then it makes this like 8 3/4 lengthwise. So it will just clear the bottom of this middle section. It won't be hanging out of the middle section. The other thing that I wanted to do was I rounded the corners on here, and I was going to do a punch across here, but I couldn't find a punch that I wanted to use for that, because I have this one from EK Success. I was just concerned about these getting bent and just making it look much more worn than I wanted it to, much quicker. So I decided I was just going to round the corners, and we'll go from there. So what I want to do to start out with is to begin by getting this middle section in, getting this down, because what I want to do is to be able to cover this flap with the cardstock when I put it down. We are then, in order to do the middle part where we're going to do the waterfall, I always like to put my waterfalls on pieces of cardstock, so that's going to also fit inside there. And this I will put down on top of the designer's paper. So let's get this in first, and we'll move on to the next part. So what I like to do with this is I like to flatten this down. So I'm going to flatten this down so that I can put this at the top. I'm putting it at the top all the way up, and then I can put the gusset, the 1/4 inch gusset in there. So let me get my glue. And by the way, I primarily will be using art glitter glue for the majority of this album. I don't think I use any score tape at all. I usually don't. So if I do, I'll let you know that we're going to use some score tape. I usually only use score tape when I am making my covers with a chipboard cover. And actually, now that I say that, I might try that next time with my cardstock covers. I might try that with just the cardstock. So once I get that down, I want to make sure that I clean up if there's any overflow of glue. Make sure that is clean. And if I pull this up, you'll see that our cardstock, once there's something in there, it'll come up a little bit like that. So you'll see that it won't hang out or hang below that. So we're going to, I just want to make sure I'm level in here. And then I do a lot of flipping and turning of my books. I don't know why. Sometimes it just feels better one way or the other. So this is our cardstock that I picked out, or designer paper, not cardstock, but designer paper that I picked out to put into this section. And I picked this one because it was a little bit of a plainer paper, and I thought that it would work well with possibly my colors here and colors on the other part of the folio. And I thought it would not fight against other pattern papers or colors. And so this size, this designer piece, I cut just like I would for if I was putting this down or not. So this was cut at, I have 8.5 here. Let me just make sure. The middle section is cut at, the length is 8 5/8, and the width is 6 3/8. Well, it's a little bit shy. This is really more 6 1/4. I must have gone back and cut that down a little bit more, so need to change my notes. So this is 6 1/4 by 8 5/8. Yep, that's right. I'm going to, let me change this real quick. 6 so that I get my measurements right, because that matches perfectly around the sides. So we're going to go ahead and let's do a little bit of distress ink. Sorry, I meant to do this ahead of time and I forgot. I need to re-ink my ink pad here for all the vintage photo that I use for my mini albums. So, all right, then let's get our glue on our designer paper. And by the way, this paper is a collection from Country Craft Creations. It was designed by Tamra and her designers, and it is exclusive to Country Craft Creations. So please, I've put a link in my down below in the comments below to the Country Craft Creations, to the store. So take a look down there for a link to get to the store, and this is called Bountiful Blessings. So, all right. And so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually work on our waterfall. And what I started out is, like I said, I like to put them on this type of a sheet of paper because this is the same width as what my my waterfall pieces are, and so I like to make sure then that way I can get them straight going down on that piece of paper. So this is actually going to go right to the base. I didn't match this up before I started. Yeah, it'll be fine. So this is going to go top to bottom, and then we're going to put this side by side, even on either side. And you'll see there's a little bit of the paper showing, not much. It just has a edge. So I just want to make sure this is put in then side by side properly. So the length of this, we have, this is 9.5, and I believe this is 6 inches. Yes, it is. It's 6 inches. So what we are going to be able to do is to put on here 4x6 photos. I know a lot of times people do 4¼ by 6¼ but I've chosen not to do that because I figured we could take off a little bit of a 4x6 photo and make it work on these flaps, because doing the 4¼ by 6¼ really uses so much more sheets of black cardstock or cardstock and matting. So I'm just choosing to do a 4x6 and not use too much of my my cardstock. So if you want to do the 6¼ you can feel free to do that and match that up so that it fits across here, and you probably won't even need any designer paper underneath if you do make this even a little bit wider. But I just wanted to have more, because the other thing is that this will be able, we're going to glue down on the hinges, and so we're not going to be, so we can have a pocket underneath there as well. So I'm going to miter the corners. I'm messy today. I apologize if things look really messy to you. They are. I've been working on lots of projects, and because I am going to the Utah retreat for Country Craft Creations, and I'm leaving on Monday, and I'm trying to get some videos up so that there's videos ready to go while I'm traveling. And so hopefully I'm going to get these 2 videos done for you, and there'll be something to watch while I'm gone. All right, I'm going to put this down on the bottom first and match that up with as close to the bottom as I can get it and as even as I can get it. That's it. So how many of you watch tutorials like this and think, oh my gosh, I wish I could help her with that and make it more even? She keeps having to pull it up. God darn it. See, I push it over too far. It's not over far enough, and then it's over too far, and I can't get the exact match from side to side. I think that's going to have to be the best, because being exact is not always the answer. So then I'm going, the reason why I waited to not put my glue on here is I just want to make doubly sure that that's going to be positioned in the right spot and it's not going to interfere with my cover. So that was why I did not do it, because I can't see it from over here, whether it's really matched up or not. And honestly, this side is probably a little bit wider than the other side, but oh well. Nobody's going to be looking at it for those kinds of things quite like that. And I'm not going to stress about it. So there we go, in our flaps in the middle. Now, a lot of people would ask, are we going to put magnets on this? I'm not putting any magnets or any ribbon on it because it's the very center of our folio, and I don't really expect it to go flipping and flopping around. So that'll come down like that. So the next thing that I want to do is let's make our flaps for our waterfall. And what I wanted to show you is the flaps themselves. I made them 6 inches by 4.5. So I have a 1/2 inch so that I can make a hinge on each one of these flaps that are going to go on our waterfall folio. So what I did when I cut these, to try to keep as much paper as possible, I took my 12 by 12 sheet of paper and I cut it in 4.5, and then I cut another one to 4.5. So that gave us 4.5, 8, 9 inches. So I was able to use 9 inches of that 12 by 12, and I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4 mats out of that. But the other thing that I do is I score it then all the way down at the 1/2 inch, so that I've done both of them at the same time. And then I come back, and because these are 4 by 6, I'm going to get two full mats for my waterfall out of that one cut. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time these days with my fingernails picking things up, and these are my fingernails. They're not like thick gel nails. Now this side, I always run that down and measure it up exactly to the other one as well. So if I go up to here, this is supposed to be up to the 6 inches. And this could be just a minuscule amount over, but that minuscule amount over could make your waterfall be zigzaggy or off. So what I always try to do is I take this, my first one, and I make my cut, and then I take my second one and just run it back and forth to make sure that, according to my cutter here, that it's at the right measurements. So, and that is a cutter by Stampin' Up. And right now, that is my favorite cutter. And the reason why it's my favorite cutter is because I like a couple things about it, is that on the right side of it, for me, for being a right-handed person, that is, I can do 1 and 1.5 inch cuts on it. It also gives me the measurements for an 1/8 and a 1/6. I don't know if it has a 1/16. I think it just has, oh yeah, it does. 1/16 of an inch, and it's easy enough to see. The other thing I like about it is that when I have it on an uneven surface, it still cuts okay. My Fiskars cutter, that it looks similar to that, if I have it on here and I don't have it steadily placed, I have a hard time cutting on that cutter. So I like the Stampin' Up cutter for that. I don't like the Stampin' Up cutter for cutting chipboard or anything that is, you know, really thick material. But I do have to say, one of the things that I do like a lot about it is that I can cut, especially with designer paper, I can cut 2 sheets of paper at one time on the cutter, and that's nice. And even with this Country Craft Creations artisan cardstock, I can still cut 2 sheets. I might have to run back and forth a couple of times, but I can still cut it and it comes out okay. So there we go. We have all of our waterfall pieces together. And what I'm going to do, and I don't know exactly how many I'm going to need down the front of this waterfall piece, but what I will do, what I usually do anyways, is start at the top of this, and I line my waterfall pieces up side by side, or from the top down, and then with a 1/2 inch, and then I try to match up the sides on all of these. So I'm going to just put my glue down on here, and then I'm going to do the rest of the stack going down there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back in just a few minutes when I have that done. Thank you. Hi crafters, well, we're back, and I want to show you what I worked on while I was away. I went and finished off the rest of the waterfall, And I didn't do any coverage of any of the waterfall pieces, but here we've got the waterfall in here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 mats on here. So you can essentially put onto here 20 photos just in this section. So there's plenty of room for you to put lots of pictures in this center section. Plus, don't forget that you actually even have an area up here that you can collage for your photo album. So something that I'm going to do a little bit different with this top section is I wanted to put a frame on this top section, and I'm making it to fit exactly into this mat so that I can put a picture on here, and I'll put in a photo or a piece of the design paper for in the front of here. And then what I will do is, in order to keep the color consistent going all the way down, I'm going to use this this pattern paper to go all the way down. It's from my cutoff from making this, and I'm going to cut this to 5 7/8. And then that way is our 6 by 6 paper. I'll make that to 5 7/8. And then each one of these strips I will take and make them, because we have a half inch gusset here, I'm going to cut those for inside of here as well as on the bottom of my mat. So these are each a 1/2 inch, so that would be 4/8. So we're going to cut it down to 3/8. We're going to make all those pieces be 3/8 by 5 7/8, and that'll be put down all the way down on here. But what I want to do first is to talk about how I made this piece. So the first thing that I did is I cut a mat on the black cardstock that is 4 by 6. And then I ended up cutting some of the designer paper. I made this to 3 7/8 by 5 7/8, and I put it down onto the top of here. Now, some people might ask, well, don't you want a black edge around here as well? I'm good with not a black edge. What I did is I just actually put my vintage photo around the inside of that edge there. So let me see if I can show this to you so it's a little bit clearer for you. With a white background, might show you a little bit easier. So we have a black edge all the way around. We have our cardstock. And then what I did is I turned it over and I measured a 1/2 inch all the way around on the back of that before I put this plastic on here. And then I cut out that 1/2 inch with the designer paper on here on top of the cardstock. So we've made our opening, and I only had to make one cut and it matched exactly. So that's how I did that. And then when I was done with that, I cut out, I cut my my acetate and put it on the back of here. And this acetate is from Country Craft Creations, and I have to tell you that I really like it. It doesn't glare too much, doesn't make any issues on the pages with the photos. And the piece that I cut out of the center of this, I can either slide it inside, and I think it's probably this way. I could slide it in until we can put a photo in there, or I can put this on something and slide it in so that it can be the color or something in there. But I think I want to have something with more of the colors of the collection so that it matches better to our two sides of these covers. So I'm probably going to do that. But what I'm going to do with this photo mat is I have some dots or some squares to lift this up a little bit. I don't want it to be raised up too high, but I do want it to be a little bit more space in between the page and the frame so that I can get a photo down into it. So once I have this done, what I'm going to do when I go around here is I've got these thin pop-up dots, and I actually went through and I just cut all of them in half. on this end. And the reason for that is because I want to put these as close to the outside as possible so that it allows me more room in my frame to be able to put a picture in that frame. So I'm just going to put this along here, and they don't have to be perfect, perfectly butting up against each other, because we're not putting any mix in here or anything. I just need them to be tight enough that they're going to be holding the pictures in. So I'm just going to go around and finish doing this. And I will speed up the rest of this section on this for when I do the video. Okay, so now we're going to take our album and we're going to take and put this piece onto our top flap. And I want to, I got my pin in my mouth. So I guess I should say, you saw I put those all the way around and then I put a dot of glue all the way around. And really that is based upon the fact that I've said in my past videos about how I want my mini album to last, and that glue actually merges or melds with the cardstock when it goes down. Tape can dry out. So this way it's making sure that that tape won't dry out on my mini album in the years to come, because I've got my glue on there as well. And these are very, very sticky pop dots. And you know what? I can't believe I just did that. I'm going to have to fix it. Okay, guys. See that those creative opportunities that we have. I'm going to fix it off camera, but did you see what I did? Is I put those dots all the way around the whole thing, and I needed to leave this open on top so that I could put a photo in there. So, okay, guys, learn from my mistake. And remember that usually what I do is I draw myself a line, because I make this mistake all the time. So I will fix that, and then we'll go ahead and I will get the rest of the papers put down onto this waterfall. And when I come back, I will get ready to, we'll finish off this part and this back part, and then our two insides. So I will be back in just a few minutes to get that done with you. Thank you. Hi crafters. Well, I've been gone for a little bit. Now you wouldn't have noticed that, but I was putting some things together and trying to get my pages together here for putting the book together. I did put a few things on, and let's just go over that real quickly. So I covered my flap, and for the flap measurements, this is measured at 6 1/2 by 8 5/8. So that's exactly what will be going onto the back of here, is 6 1/2 by, hopefully you can see that, 6 1/2 by 8 5/8. But then I'm also going to be putting a pocket on here. So let's go through and let me show you the other things that I did. I just threw that in there. It's not, if it's going to stay, I'll put some paper behind it and mount it. And as you can see, I opened up my top part of my pocket again. Don't do that when you do that, when you make your pocket or your photo frame. So as you can see, I used this paper going down, and I tried to match up as best I could going down. So these are all the blue in here, blue on the end, and I did that all the way down. And left that open to put my photos on. And then I have a mat down here with the 2 down here, so I can put a 4x6 photo on here as well. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that this is a 4x6 photo frame, but let's just say you didn't have a 4x6, but you had a 4x4 or a 4x2 or something like that. You know, when you do something like that, you can put pattern paper or pattern paper, let's say, on this side and match it up, and then put the photo over on this side. And that way it gives you options for not always having to put a 4x6 photo in here. And even if it's something maybe that's 4x5, you know, you put some paper in here as well, or you put 2 pictures side by side, same thing on the front, and you can always cut down some of the paper to cover that up through there. So just there are other options and things that you can work on and things that you can do. So with this, let's go and do a few of the things that I wanted to do on this page. And I also cut out some papers for my page over here. And I'm not fully sure everything that I'm going to be doing. It's ending up being a little bit flatter than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do, or what I want to do on here, is I would like to put, here we go. What I would like to do is I would like to put this cut apart on this page right here. You know what? I just thought of something. I apologize. I'm going to skip back to something. Now, for measurements, for these that are in here or in the top of my pages, these were 3/8 wide because there's a 1/2 inch gusset in there. So these are 3/8 inch wide, and I cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 of them. I cut 10 of them, and then these strips along here are the 1/2 inch wide. So there is a 1/2 inch wide going all down, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as well. So the gussets are 3/8, and the end of the photo pages are 1/2 inch. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you that measurement. All right, back to this page. So this is a 3x4 cut apart, and what I want to do is I'm going to do a little bit of smushing around this with my vintage photo. There's some, I'm not doing inking on every section or everything, just where I think I need some of it, and it's really more because of the cut on this that I want to do that. So I'm going to put this on this flap, and I'll show you where I'm going to go with this. And what I want to do with this is put this so that it is a flap where we can put a photo underneath it. You actually can put a photo on top of it too to cover this, for goodness sakes, to cover this cut apart up as well, if you'd prefer to have a photo on there. So we're going to put this one down over here, and what I want to do is to put a photo mat underneath here as well. So, and what I would like to do is I want to hold this down with a magnet because I just don't want this flapping around too much. So what I'm going to do is I will glue this down, and I'm not going to miter the corners on here because I want to use part of that black for my edging for my matting. And I'll show you what that is in just a second. So I'm going to put this down on this page. And I already have my magnet on the back of this page, and this is my second magnet. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to put that down onto here. And so then my magnet is down. And then what I want to do is I want to take these mats and photo mat to cover over the magnets. So this cut apart, or the black piece that I put the cut apart on, again I said these are 3 by 4. So this section is 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. So this is 3 1/8, but I also added a 1/2 inch for the flap on there. So 3 1/8 with a half is 4/8, 5/8. So this black piece would be 3 5/8 by 4 1/8. Okay? And then if I put the mats on here, we're going to do these mats 3 by 4. That's the size that we're going to be making these mats in here. So I'm going to put this one down, and then on the other black mat that I'm going to put the cream mat on is also cut at 3 by 4, or 3 by 4 and 1/8, and I will show you that in just a moment. So this black mat I am going to be putting down here, and I'm going to match that up with my flap, so that'll go down like that, and this wants to be hidden underneath that. But what I want to do is I want to give myself a little bit of leeway on this so that I can do a black border all the way around. So this mat is 3 by 4 1/8, and this is 3 by 4. Sorry, I apologize. It's a 3 by 4. I have to think sometimes on what I planned on doing, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with this. So with this, I am going to give myself some border on my outside of this mat so that I have my black border on this piece. Oh, goodness gracious. And I'm not going to worry about the border on this side of my mat, because when I put this down, I'm going to have a slight border, an 1/8 of an inch border over here that'll make it look like it's all supposed to be, that there's a border all the way around this. And the reason why I did that is because I had an off cut of this black, and it was 3 inches, so I figured I could use my hinge for part of my black border. So it looks, you can't even tell, and then when you close that down, this is even up to here, so we have a small flap on here. Now the other thing that you could have done is you could have left this open, so it could have been a tuck spot for in here as well. All right, So the next thing that we're going to do is I want to put this piece of the design paper into this part of the book, and we're going to also put a pocket in here, and we're not going to do it side by side, but we are going to put the pocket in here so it's a little bit of a ways from the sides. Sorry if you can't see all of it. I just want to see where I'm at with my paper. And then I'm going to put it back around. I'm sorry. Oh, this flipping and flapping. So I'm going to put this in here, and then we'll get the pocket down. So the paper to the inside of here is again the same measurements that we had on the front, and that was 6.5 by 8 5/8. So 6.5, 8 5/8. And then I did round the corners on here, just like I did on this flap. Those corners are rounded. One of the things that you'll notice when you look at the book is I have a lot of this blue, which I love. It's kind of a turquoise color. I really, really like the color of this. But what I wanted to do was to pull in some of the other colors. So that's the reason why I did in the middle of this book, on this front of this page, I did a page that had more of the other colors. Gosh, for goodness sakes. Sometimes I think my eyes are off center. See, it's off center again. By the time I get done pulling this up and putting it down, there's going to be no glue left on it. Okay, I'll live with that one. It's not perfect, but I'll live with it. Got to bend this a little bit. It gets to be too... Right. So then what we're going to do is I cut a pocket that I want to put onto this piece of designer paper, and I did not cut the piece that I want for this yet, but let's get this pocket in, and I want to show you what I want to do with that. So this pocket measures 6 5/8 by 3 inches. So when I did this, I just actually, again, I had a scrap of my black paper, and I just took the scrap, and that's why it's 3 inches. I didn't cut that off, but that's why this measures 6 5/8, because I just took the piece of the scrap paper. And then here I scored at a 1/2 inch, I scored at a 1/2 inch, and scored at a 1/2 inch. And now we're going to come in and we're going to miter in on these pockets up to the corners, and also on the top we're going to miter those. All right, so we've got that mitered. So as what you're going to see is I did this so it wasn't going to be a pocket that's going to be all the way across. But what I wanted to do was to use, everything's going to fall over on me here. I wanted to use some of these cut aparts and use them as tags, and so I'll back them with the black cardstock, and I'll put them into that pocket so they can be used as photo frames or photo elements in my book. Now, when I do this, I've mitered these corners, but the thing that I look for in doing this is that my bottom flap goes over the top of my side flaps underneath. And the reason for that is then it won't have an issue with going in, like my tags won't have an issue going into my pockets. Or they shouldn't have as much of an issue going into the pockets. Sometimes they still might. They do sometimes. Got a bit of a glue around there. It's just looking. Nope, that doesn't work. You even take some of that and do that over the top. But then again, I might do something that will pull out a little bit more of the color. So I'm just going to wait on that because I want to see what I have left in some of my remnants rather than cutting into a whole piece of paper. But then that's ready for a pocket to be able to put some photo mats in. So we're going to put this down. And we'll go to this page over here. And what I have done with this is, again, I wanted to get some more of this color out here for in here. And so I can get some different color matching with the green cardstock. So what I'm going to put down first is I took and cut one of the I can't even think what they're called. You know, one of these things. So it's actually on the bottom of the cut-aparts. It's right here. And I didn't want the full size of that, so I cut this down without the black edging on it because I didn't want it quite that thick. So what I did then too is I measured it so that it matched exactly to the length of this paper as well. So this is cut at lengthwise 8.5. So this is 8.5 length. My piece here is a cutoff. It's about 5 1/8, but this is the cutoff from this page over here, or maybe down here. Yeah, more down here. So I wanted to use this over here because then I'm bringing out the blue and the tan and the other greens and things like that. So I wanted to incorporate more of the different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this down on this side, and then we'll put this piece down here, and we'll know how to line that up. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do to finish this side off, whether it's a pocket or a flap or something else. I'm not 100% sure. Got to think about that a little bit yet. So got that down. And the next thing that we want to do is to get this lined up so that we have a little bit of green in between the two. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit, and then line that up with that. Again, I think this just makes a really great folio for a Thanksgiving holiday that you may or may not have a lot of pictures for. Some families do, we don't. We have some, but we don't have not as much as we do for Christmas. So now I've lined that all up. And that makes a nice strip along there. And we may come back and I may do something up here. I'm not 100% sure. This looks really nice. The only thing that I'm concerned about a little bit is not putting anything on here because I've given myself a lot of extra room with my spines. So I want to make sure that I have enough on here to keep this wide enough and not underdone. So one other thing that I was thinking about doing in keeping this together a little bit more is possibly putting some magnets right here and then right in here, the big ones, and because I thought that it would keep it more aligned and more square when I put this together. And as I add pictures in here, this will come out a little bit more, but not sure. One thing that I was thinking about doing on here is doing not a waterfall, but maybe doing like a merry-go-round kind of flap. So that'll also give us some depth on this page. I haven't really figured out what I wanted to do with that yet, so I'm going to go ahead and work on that. I'm thinking about for right here, I was thinking about going with this paper going down the side. And I want to make sure I don't cut this off because I want that, but cutting that for my papers on the spine. So I'm going to do that. I'll do that off camera because it's just an easy peasy thing to do. Where did my, so our spine, this is measuring right now, the green is measuring 3/4 of an inch. So I will make that measurement 3/4, 5/8 of an inch. And this is measuring 8 and, let me turn that. Yes, that is measuring 8 and 5/8. So I will cut this at 8 and a half. Same thing for this wider one. It would be 8 and a half for that. But let me look at the width of that. So currently this width is at an inch. So I will be cutting my paper here at 7/8 of an inch to be put down onto there. And that one, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but that's where I'm going to be with that, and I'll do that off camera, and then we'll come back together. And for this video, we're going to finish this off, and then when we come back for our second tutorial, I'm going to finish off the front, these covers, as well as the spines, and then the back cover. I have a pretty good idea on what I wanted to do on my covers, so we will get that all together and we'll work on that with each other. So I will be back, and like I said, when I come back, gosh, I just forgot. When I come back, we'll finish this off. All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you in a little bit. Hi, crafters. Well, I said that I was going to come back to finish another page, but the length of the video is getting a bit long, so I don't like to go over an hour usually for my videos. So this is how I have this set up. I'll show you a couple of things that I did off camera and things that if you've got questions on, let me know. This time around, I wanted to not put ribbon on here, so because I wanted to try this out for my folio. So this is probably overkill, but I ended up putting magnets on the inside of here, and that way what happens is that it just stands up really nice and straight and goes well together. Well, these pulled out. So and we talked about doing this the last time, and I got that on that page. And then what I ended up doing was finishing off this pocket. I put that on there, and then I also covered my cut-aparts and made photo mats out of those. And then this one, I made a little booklet. And the reason why I put a booklet in here is because for some reason this pocket is really got a lot of room in it. And not that I don't like that, it's just that you saw how it kind of slipped out. So I've got to think about the fact is, can I put a stopper in here, which I might do, just to keep it in a little bit better. Not sure. Just got to look at that. But I just wanted to show you the rest of my cut-aparts. So I'm going to be doing in the next video, we're going to be doing this page and the rest of the covers together. And that'll come up in the next tutorial, and then we will be done, because I'm planning on just 2 tutorials. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and I hope that you have a wonderful crafty day. And like and subscribe if this is your cup of tea. Thanks so much. Bye.